They wanted to enter it by the traditional distribution channels. Well, some of you may remember there used to be people called the TV serviceman who drove around town in a truck and fixed things. Remember that? And you had tube testers in drugstores. Remember that? Maybe some of you aren't old enough, but that's how it was done back then. And what happened was the U.S. brands, the RCAs and so forth, warned all their service centers, if you service these Japanese TVs, you won't be getting parts from us on time. And so they threatened them. Well, a guy down in the ranks at Sony came up with a clever idea. Why don't we make a TV that doesn't need service? Then we can sell it anywhere. And of course, the Trinitron was born, the Sony brand was born. And it really wasn't that hard, by the way, just better power supplies, better heat sinks, and a few things like that. And the rest is history. Sony went on to build a great brand, known for quality, and they kept that system really working well for them for over 30 years. A great story. I got to get that young man's name someday. He's probably not a young man anymore. Well, did they future-proof their organization throughout all this? The answer is going to be no. They've really been trailing in innovation behind a lot of others. They've had slow product rollouts and a lot of problems. They're getting some traction in areas now. Their quality has lagged, hasn't been pretty. Their battery problems are pretty well known. You couldn't get on an airplane with a Sony battery there for a while. Their costs are too high. They somehow have to compete with China. And their leadership, and this is the key, really lost focus. They began to believe that it was about content, and they got involved with Hollywood and all the diversions that go with that. And so I think you're looking at potentially a real leadership failure at Sony, but let's hope there's a turnaround. There's a guy named George Bailey who's been hired as the new Chief Transformation Officer. He's an IBM guy, ex-IBM. He wrote a paper at IBM about what happened to Sony. And Sony said, why don't we bring that guy in and talk to him? So he's there. His job is to try and put it all back together. And it will start with how do we achieve better leadership in this company. I wish them well. Now here's an interesting quote. When the need for change is obvious, why don't people do what they know they need to do? Sounds pretty simple. This came out of a meeting here in Goodrich about 8 years ago. Brian Gore. We were at a staff meeting back in 2004 in which just a myriad of issues were coming up, and so many of them were things where people just needed to take the initiative and do them, but they hadn't done it. And he was saying, why don't people do what they know they need to do? And what we concluded, by the way, is it comes back to leadership. You know, are we leading? Are we giving people the tools they need? Our job is to communicate the vision, build consensus, and then put systems in place that allow people to do the right things, right? So we're talking about standard work for common tasks, our macro planning, policy deployment, all the things that go into the Goodrich operating system. All these are designed to help the leader get his division, get his operation doing the right things, and by allowing its people to succeed. And you're creating an environment in which those people can succeed and provide opportunities for personal growth. As a leader, that's one of your jobs. And of course, the commitment to continuously improve whatever you're doing is something that we're trying to make part of the Goodrich culture. All the great companies do this. We have to do it. So if this all sounds familiar, right, we're back to our 3 circles, which I dearly love. I really appreciate this. I see this maybe a little bit differently than you. I see it as a leadership toolkit. We talk about ethics, the Goodrich operating system, how we're going to do things, and how we're going to treat people. Those 3 things, I think they're very key, and I love the way we summarize this in the 3 circles. It's just a great thing. We are committed at Goodrich to building strong, sustainable leadership throughout the company. I think we got a great model. Very proud of it, proud to be part of it. It is a toolkit. There was an interesting article in Harvard Business Review just a few months ago talking about leadership in the age of transparency, where there are no secrets anymore, right? Very hard to keep any kinds of secrets. In the web era, there just simply aren't any. I think leadership in this mold that we're building at Goodrich are going to survive and prosper in that kind of transparent environment. Certainly that is Marshall's intent, is that we will be able to exist in a sphere of complete knowledge quite comfortably. Finally, I want you all to do me a favor, and along your journey that you're taking right now, find ways to help others. I'm one of those who's a beneficiary of that. Years ago, I just gotten out of the service, was going to college, working full-time, and when I finally got through college, I only did it because my boss was helping me arrange my hours so that I could. And I went to thank him. He said, you can't. You can really help me, though, by making sure you pass it on. He just said, pass it on. It's the best thing you'll ever do. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, for your company, and for other people. Do it. So I just ask you to do that. So I'll finalize by saying good luck to all of you on your journey. So good luck on your journey, and I just ask you to remember one thing. There's no turning back on this. There's only one way, it's forward. Oh, I suppose you could stand still for a little while. But going forward is what it's all about. Thank you very much.